Ndio hivyo mpenzi mtazamaji, tumerejea katika kikao ambapo tunaangazia nafasi ya uongozi ya mwanamke. Kumbuka ni siku chache tu baada ya kusherehekea siku ya wanawake duniani, tukiangazia baadhi ya yale ambayo tumepitia na yale ambayo tumeafikia kufikia wakati huu na pale ambapo tunahitajika. Kumbuka pia nilikuwa nimeelezea kwamba katika ahadi yake Rais William Ruto ni kwamba tungepata ama wanawake humu nchini, nazungumza hili nikijua pia mimi ni kiongozi wa leo na kesho, walikuwa wameahidi kwamba nafasi hizi za wanawake zitakuwa ni 50 kwa 50 katika nafasi za, na sio uongozi huo, pia uongozi katika jamii, uongozi katika nafasi za kampuni binafsi kama jinsi tulivyo katika runinga hii ya TV47 miongoni mwa mengine. Na hili linajiri wakati ambapo pia kuna maswali kuhusiana na utekelezwaji wa theluthi mbili katika kampuni zenyewe na nafasi ambazo tunafanyia kazi endapo hili limeafikiwa. Linda Alela, sijui kama tumepiga hatua katika 2/3 gender rule, na ni kipi ambacho kufikia wakati huu kinatuzuia wanawake kuwa kwenye meza ya uongozi?
Wajua, the 2/3 gender rule is quite a contentious concern in the country. Sometimes I'm scared because then when you see just how committed people are towards pushing for us to attain the 2/3 gender rule, yet they're also committed to make sure that it is not happening, then you ask yourself, are we even genuine in this space of making sure that we want to propel the women to leadership? Before we come back to you ladies, allow us to go back to Liz, who had the conch, so that they can as well tell us whether they think that we are ever going to get a space where we will attain the 2/3 gender rule in the respective capacities that Liz has highlighted.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Linda Alela and Elizabeth Mutuku, for that. And also, just to add, it's 30 years down the line since the Beijing Declaration, which basically calls for gender equality. But still, the progress is frustratingly slow. And we'd like to hear from our audience just how can we fill up this gap, right? So, anyone who would like to weigh in on this matter, I'll start with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jen Kifu. I am a nurse. I'm currently the Chief Nursing Officer at the MP Shah Hospital. I am also a health systems manager, and I'm also an organizational leader, currently pursuing a PhD in organizational leadership. We have quite a great role and work to do in as much as in bringing out the girl child, the women into leadership. Looking at myself, for example, I have been mentored. I know we've talked a lot about mentorship, coaching, supporting each other, women supporting each other, men supporting women. I have been a product of being mentored. I started by being mentored by my parents, whereby everybody was equal within the house. There was no segregation as you are a boy, you are a girl. We were given equal opportunities to grow. And that's what we really need as parents. Can we give our children that equal opportunity to grow? Because the moment we are not able to show them at that young age, then they grow knowing that this is not a girl's thing, this is a boy's thing. So if we are able as parents, right there at that stage, to be able to teach our children, both boys and girls, that even girls can be good leaders, then we'll have made very good progress. Talking of my mentorship and my growth, I am very high in healthcare system strengthening, healthcare quality, patient safety. This is a field I've been mentored by a man. And I've been able to be taken through. So as men, really, you can support women. And I've been able to grow and I've been able to implement. Because at the end of the day, if a woman grows, if a girl grows, it is the whole society which is going to grow. But the moment we press a girl down, I was reading somewhere today about, it was a post in LinkedIn. It was by Angela Nguku, the CEO of White Ribbon Alliance. And what she had written there is, a woman silenced, that's an opportunity crushed. And that's the reality on the matter. If we don't give these girls, if we don't give these women the opportunity, then we are losing opportunities. And these are challenges which we would have been able to, for our society to grow. In MP Shah, one of the things we are doing there, we have a school of nursing right there. And what we are doing right there is mentoring these young ones, looking at the data and the statistics in healthcare. We are talking from WHO data, we are talking of about 70% plus of the healthcare workforce is women. But what happens when you move up the ladder? You find we're talking about 25% or less women in leadership there. So what happened to this 70% of the other women within the healthcare? So one of the things which we are doing both to our nursing students and also to the rest of the women within the organization, we've launched what we call a worker mentorship program. And what the worker means is, worker is Swahili for ignite. Because one of the things we believe in, a candle loses absolutely nothing by lighting another. So as a leader, you lose absolutely nothing by igniting a woman there, igniting, supporting another person to grow. So it's very important that we are able to continue mentoring. And one of the things we really tell our young girls, our young new students who have joined nursing and the other fields, is you are more than what you've just entered. You don't just enter here, think beyond. In as much as you've entered as a nursing student, look beyond, because the great leaders are right there. We have CEOs who are in that class. We have very big people, even, who knows, the president might be in that class. So one of the things which I believe we all need to do, both men and women, is to support women because they have the capability to do it. Let's mentor them. Let's hold their hands so that they can be able to grow and to excel. The other thing as I finish is the other bit of making sure we are able to collaborate, because this works very key. I'm looking, for example, just giving another example of my organization. We have female leaders. For example, our CEO does a lot of mentoring, a lot of support for our young leaders. And looking at the change of leadership there, I know one of the areas looking of the 70% women in the organization and 25%, I think through this mentorship and this leadership support, it's something we've been able to see. Actually, one of the things we have is quite a number of our leaders in the organization are women. Our CEO is a woman. Our CEO is a woman. So many are women. Looking at my place actually is in nursing, although nursing is a female-dominated, I do it a place and almost 100% I had women leaders, and they are doing great.
Okay.
Actually, one of the things we looked recently, we started searching for the boy child, but because we were 100% women. So it's something we have the potential to grow as women. Let's not limit ourselves.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Sabina Achieng. I'm an international development specialist and a rapporteur. I'm glad to be here, especially amongst women who are formidable, and I hope that we'll be able to socialize after this. My concern is, first of all, I think the topic of leadership is so important. And the reason why I want to focus on the importance of leadership is because there's an element of leadership that we possibly are running away from, which is accountability. Accountability is a principle of leadership. I've listened to, I'm not sure who mentioned it, but there's a person, we're speaking about the gender rule. 2/3 of parliament being a rule that was supposed to be ideally representing women, right? But here's the thing. When we look at how politics plays out in our country, we are easily going to be fooled when we think that leadership has nothing to do with the influence on politics. Why do I say this? We observe leaders. It's one thing for you to observe a leader at a table, but another thing for you to learn from what that person represents. So we look at, for example, I don't want to mention names, but if you look at, for example, I think Millie Odhiambo has been mentioned here. There's a reason why she's being mentioned as a possible mentor. Why? Because she embodies a certain manner in which she carries herself. There's a particular grace, maybe a way that she articulates herself, and most importantly, is represented in society. This is important because perception, believe it or not, carries such value when you're trying to influence a society. I want to insist on this because when we have a leader who is female, femininity is such a powerful part of the woman. It is the essence of who you are. It carries more than just you being a biological body. You represent kindness, you represent nurturing, and you represent expansion, which means that there's a lot of young girls, a lot of young ladies who are looking and essentially can easily copy that behavior purely on the basis of what the person is representing. This is why we talk about women like Millie Odhiambo. On the contrary, we also have women who are in leadership positions and they do not represent the ideal which is what we are trying to push as a society. It makes no sense, I think, that we have 65% of government, but we are being represented by women who do not embody particular ideals, where we are trying to bring young daughters, and some of us who've got nieces, and we're trying to show them that this is the path. And so I think that part of devising strategies, actionable steps, has to focus on combining leadership and accountability. Why? Because politics is personal, but the personal is also political. We want to change our society. Let us focus on creating and reproducing women who can idealize that society.
Do you suppose we have done that?
I am presently doing it.
Okay,
hopefully.
Beautiful. That was a very wise way of getting us to respond to that.
Okay, maybe we can hear from another audience. Thank you so much.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, good evening. Sorry. So my name is Veronica Muse. I'm a law student at Mount Kenya University, Parklands. And I'm going to talk about two issues, which I thank God that there are women here who are going to tuelezea zaidi how to go about everything.
Kama unaweza kushika mic kidogo ndio tukusikie vizuri. Karibu.
Okay, hivi?
Yes, yes.
Oh, and so the first one you talked about women, the two-third gender role, and also we talked about how women are their own enemies, the previous topics. I'm not going to talk much about that, but then concerning that, Madam Pauline talked about how we should believe in yourself as a lady, and how you should be able to the first thing is believing in yourself. Table of deals and stuff, you have to wear out what you want. If it's $1 million shillings for the contract or whatever, because that's what a man will do. But then for us, we believe that we are to make at a point that lazima to negotiate for us to get whatever we deserve, of which that's not the point. That's why the two gender role is going to be kind of difficult to achieve, because at first we are capable of having the 50-50 government, because trust me, it's not like Kitambo back then 30 years ago when most of the women were not educated. Today, in today's society, most of the women are even educated more than the men. And also they're also politically active more than the men. So that means we can get the 50-50 one. But why can't we go for the 50-50? The 50-50 rule is because we are made to believe that. And also she talked about the idea of the women who are presenting us not being so active into presenting women, rather than being in the parliament and not. Okay, for example, Millie Adampo is well known for being so loud on women matters and everything. But then there are also women in parliament, the few that are there who are not putting enough impact to empower the girl child. And then the other thing is okay, I'm still a law student. That means I'm still a law student. That means we are in the process of breaking our ceiling and doing everything. So I believe that the women above should put more enforcement on empowering the girl child below. For example, back then in high school, we used to have forums like this where women could come speak to us and everything. But now in campus, you feel like they're not how they should be. So in a way that the girl child is kind of not as important as she was when she was growing up. That means akikuja huku shule, for example, these are things that are happening. Unakuja campus, yes, umepita, your future is bright, but then unakuja maybe ni vitu normal, you fall in love and what, and then that will lead you not achieve what you want, because utazuiwa kidogo, because there's this man who doesn't want to see you above there. Right. But then you've been given the opportunity, of which that's the basic hindrance in most of the campus students. So I assume that if it could be possible, the women above wakuje chini, wakuje waanze na hata our campus students wasiwaachilie kwanza. We are not yet there. Okay. Yeah, because there are only a few that wamefika. Inakwanga, yeah, it's also present that maybe in classes you see that time we argument, time we are discussing, time we are hearing out our views. more of the boys are so confident than the girls.
Okay.
So that's,
transition troubles, Rev, as well as decision making. I think I had asked a question on that earlier on. Let us talk to these girls and help them.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Rev, yes.
Yeah, when we look at maybe the topic of making a decision, a girl has to be 2 or 3 steps ahead to cut out the bias. There is that issue of you have to work harder because of tradition. That does not mean you have a lesser brain or anything, but there are things you have to accept to move on. If you don't accept, there is such a topic as failing forward. Now, failing forward means you give room to failure, but you wake up and learn from it. Okay. So there is the failing backward where you give up, and that is the essence of counseling, why we need mentoring, why we need to coach and stuff like that. But decision making ideally comes from a lot of knowledge management. And when you lack knowledge, you can't make decisions. If we see some of the ceilings that women have broken, like in the Bible, there are 14 judges. When you talk in terms of there was that particular period when there was no rule, there was anarchy. But out of the 14 judges, one was a woman called Deborah. The other 13, of course, are men. Yeah, but Deborah was so effective that even the king could not go to war without her. And you know, the Middle East culture is you are all hijabbed and everything else, but still, if she said no, they were not going to go to war. And so they won that war because of the brain that she had. And yet she had a husband. So there are things you have to get out of and make the decision on your own, even when you feel it's up against others. And for me, I come from that culture where we don't have to fight the men. There is a word like diversity. Yeah, we are cultured differently, we are made differently. And so we can't keep on talking about over-empowering the girl until she becomes a boy. You know what I mean? Yeah, but nyumba nani anawea trousers. You know those kind of things. And then when we go back now to the aspect of decisions, you see there can be very calculated decisions, like what was done to the Kikuyu community. The women were ruling, and the men decided these women make them pregnant. Okay. And so they are all pregnant and they are on trimesters and they want apples and they want this. And the men ruled. So there is also the diversity that God has given women. And when we look at the Bible, really, people talk a lot about the bias that Jesus just chose men. But he was bankrolled by women. Okay. It is the women that financed his ministry. And that is the aspect that most men also will not talk about, where they are great things. Right, okay.
Rev, I want us to hold it at that point of decision making. Before we took that earlier break, Elizabeth Mutuku told us to move from the Book of Lamentation and talk progressively on action plans and everything. So we want to make the other hours that are left for this evening to be about action plans, to be about speaking to girls and telling them that usijali, it is not as bad as it used to be. We have fought tighter battles, but we are here. But we must listen to news kidogo. So why don't we take this break, listen to news, and then we come back with this discussion. Immense feedback also online, so please keep sending them. We'll be going through them later on.